to be precise, CGMA, and that takes time, endurance, patience to fulfill the American dream. And now he has a very successful practice of small business. Like as all we immigrants come, we start first small, we work hard here and there, like I did, and then try to fulfill the American dream by working small, then we grow big and create a successful enterprise. And that's Sridhar Bhaiya and his lovely wife and 3 kids who live in Fairfax, all put it together. And now, what is happening is, with the principles and fundamentals of other party, that is very much hard. Because the Nepalese community, like any immigrant community, is growing, is becoming a major part of the growing Fairfax success, of Northern Virginia success. And it's very important that the Nepalese community plays an important integral role in US politics. You're here, you should be counted, you should play an active role in voting. When you're voting, you're counted. And that's the reason why it's so important that this election is so important to your pocketbooks. And furthermore, as Bhaiya will share, that as a small business, it's very hard for him to operate and create a successful enterprise. Send his kids, which is very important as education, to college, universities, to get higher learning. And that's the reason why I requested Ken Cuccinelli to take time out of busy campaigning. In fact, you wouldn't believe how many miles he puts up, traveling all over Virginia, listening to issues which face, importantly, to the immigrant community and the Virginia residents. He's very well connected, he understands. The best part is, Ken was a senator from, this was your part of your district, right?
We're just outside.
That's the best part. He understands the issues of Northern Virginia and Virginia itself. Okay. So, that is for you to say again. So what I'm going to do is, before I take any further time, for all the hardworking people of the Virginia community, from the Nepalese community, thank you again for coming out here and taking the time to listen. And more importantly, I want to thank Sridhar Bhaiya to put this together. Had it not been for him, it wouldn't come together. I want to thank our restaurant owners who are here, who were very kind when I told them, can we do this for the Nepalese community party? That's the owner of the restaurant, just Paul, and his brother, they both run it. I also want to recognize one of my very good friends who has been very active in the Republican politics for a very long time. His name is Mike Thompson. Him and I have always felt that the immigrant community of Northern Virginia and Virginia should actively participate. Him and I have worked very, very hard to bring various communities, and I thank you all, the Nepalese community, to be coming here and supporting this event. Thank you. I would like to give applause to you all. Thank you all for coming. Sridhar Bhaiya, can you request your daughter to give the honors to our esteemed Attorney General? Sabrina, can we have you up here? I promise you will have food left over when you come. Sabrina is Sridhar's daughter. She's going to be presenting a bouquet to our Attorney General. Take a picture with her. We have the Nepalese press also here. So.
Yeah. We go.
And I think Sridhar Bhaiya and his wife also going to present a bouquet to our Attorney General.
I'm going to be popular when I get home. Thank you very much.
Now, can I request Sridhar Bhaiya to say a few words in our guest speaker here? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me. केही क्वेसन छ भने राम्रोसँग गर्नुहोस् हैन मैले यहाँ सिट प्रोभाइड गर्छु अनि रेस्पेक्ट गर्नु he gave us the respect, we need to give him the respect. Please write your question here, then he is going to be answer for you, okay? Thank you. Let me tell about the KEN. KEN CUCCINELLI is lifetime Virginia resident. He grew up in Northern Virginia, received an engineering degree from University of Virginia, then law degree from our neighbor college, George Mason University. Prior to, elected official for the, prior to elected senator, he was a small business owner. He owned the law firm in Fairfax. Then he elected senator in this area, right? He elected senator, Virginia senator, in this representative from this area from 2002. Then he elected as Attorney General in 2009. Ken has spent his whole lifetime putting Virginia first, and now he runs for governor. He wants to lower taxes, improve education with providing more choices, and relieve the burden on small business and individuals. As a governor, he will continue to create opportunity and make Virginia a more prosperous place to live. Okay, we are Nepalese, came here, first generation immigrant. We came here for our American dream. Then why I choose this party is, let me tell you before these things, I'm Biswasar Prasad Koirala's follower. Then all things, he is a Asian socialist leader, but his view is related to the like the close to the Republican Party in the US. Then Republican believe that is lower taxes for the people. Then they can create a job. They can do the more industries. I like that one. All of my clients, they want to pay the less taxes. Then they want to create their more employment for their employee. Then they get more opportunity, create more business. This is the things I like the Republican Party. Then thank you all of you here. Then Ken, he has a very, very busy life, but still I requested with him come to our community. Then he respected us to come our community. This is our pleasure. First time Virginia elected official came here. Thank you for him being with us today. Then I'd like to request Ken to speak. Whatever your view, how you can going to help our community. Like the Nepalese community is very, very minority communities, then how we can help us. You can tell them, as the next governor of the Virginia, how we can help our community, then how we can grow our community, their American dream. Thank you.
Thank you, Streeter. I appreciate it.
Ken, they want to give you some order.
Okay, I jumped early.
I request Arun Pakati, can you come here? Then give him the honor. Khadi, that will help you. I believe that is help you. In Buddhist tradition, Hindu tradition, you are going to be our next governor.
Don't get it.
They can put it on your neck. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
He wants to have a picture. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much for being here today. And to the ladies especially for your greeting. Sorry, gentlemen. But and also with respect to the cards, please, whatever questions you may have, write them down. I'll do my best to answer them, and you don't have to wait till the end. I'll make some brief remarks here, and then we'll turn it over to you all to answer your questions, as I said, any you may have. I very much appreciate you all coming today. I am running for governor of Virginia. I'm your lawyer. I'm the Attorney General. And you might not have normally thought of having a lawyer, but that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years. And we have had a number, it has been an interesting time. And before that, I was in the state senate. And as Sridhar mentioned, I represented very near here. My law office is just where it was. It's just a little farther down the street in the center of Fairfax, the city of Fairfax. And I lived in Centerville and represented Centerville, Chantilly, Fair Oaks area. All down to Springfield, but I didn't quite come into the city of Fairfax. That's why we get close here, but not quite where I represented in the Senate. Nonetheless, working here in the city of Fairfax, having grown up in Fairfax County schools, was an engineer at UVA, and I've got 2 degrees from George Mason, my law degree, and a master's in international commerce and policy. So I am pretty Northern Virginia'd up, and I am the first Attorney General not to move to Richmond when he became Attorney General. I moved from Fairfax to Prince William County. So I live down near Quantico Marine Corps Base down there. If you can see the little spire on I-95 from the Marine Corps Museum as you drive up and down. I live pretty near there, and commute down to Richmond. From that part of Prince William, it's easier to get to Richmond than it is to get to downtown DC in rush hour. So something I am well reminded of, and as someone who's still a Northern Virginian, I appreciate that traffic concern. You can tell with my name, Cuccinelli, I've got a good bit of Italian in me. My family, the other side of the family is Irish, so I have an immigrant tradition in my family, and my Italian grandfather had maybe a 6th grade education. And he worked for decades in scrap yards as a welder. When he was older, he worked as a school maintenance man. During the Depression, the toughest job he ever had, he was a bare-knuckle boxer. And if he won the fight, he'd get a watch or something that he would go pawn. And if he lost, he lost. And he was very proud to work to support his family. He never asked anybody to do otherwise. He just wanted the opportunity to work. And right now, there are a lot of Virginians who don't have any work or don't have enough work, and that just want the opportunity to share in that dignity of work. Even the 2 years my grandfather was injured and couldn't work, my grandmother stepped up and used her sewing skills to be a seamstress, to carry the family for those 2 years financially until my grandfather could get back on his feet. And that tradition of respecting the dignity of work, which is very common, I know it is in this community, it is a major motive for people to come here, as Puneet said, to this country, is for that opportunity. Something I take very much to heart, and am very dedicated, as what I hope will be your next governor, to increasing those opportunities for people in Virginia. That is my primary focus, and that takes on a lot of forms. In the short term, it is lower taxes, because that drives job creation. If you leave more money in businesses, small businesses and large businesses, they can invest more and hire more and grow more. And that's what we need them doing, especially up here in Northern Virginia, where so many of our businesses are losing their federal dollars. You know, we have IT contractors, we have all those kinds of things, and maybe some of you all work in some of those companies, own some of those companies. Those dollars are shrinking because of what's happening to the federal budget. So it's very important that our state government leave those businesses with more of their own hard-earned money so they can reinvest it, so they can continue to diversify away from federal contracts and grow and survive and hire folks here. Now, it was in the Washington Post this morning, it isn't official yet, but in the Washington Post this morning, they let it be known that I am winning the Northern Virginia Technology Council PAC endorsement. Now, the Northern Virginia Technology Council is the largest high-tech business council in the whole United States, and it's right here in Northern Virginia. It's the first major business endorsement of the race, and we're winning that endorsement. And not without some controversy, mostly because the other side is grumpy that they're losing, and they're raising holy hell about it, pardon me, but they're making a lot of noise about it this weekend, but that's what's going to happen here in the next day or so. So the high-tech businesses that are some of the ones hardest hit from the federal slowdown in Northern Virginia have endorsed my agenda for growing business, for supporting education, and for growing opportunity in Virginia. I'm very proud of that fact, and as someone who has come through our education system for most of my years of education, I'm very keen on making sure that we are changing education in a way that meets the needs of our economy. So that kids, when they get out of high school or they go into college and graduate from college, are prepared to compete in a high-tech environment. And that doesn't mean everybody has to be an engineer, but we do have to make sure as a community and as a country that we are pushing more and more of our kids in that direction, and that we have a school system that will support that. Because long-term job creation is going to be done by the scientists, the engineers. They're going to carry the economy more than any other area going forward. And so I'm very dedicated to that. Obviously, I am an engineer, so I have a little bit of a bias there. And I'll bring that bias, frankly, with me to the governor's office. I owned a small business here in the form of a law firm. More critically for you all, most of my business clients were small businesses, whether it was tow truck companies or whether it was software development companies and everything in between, and some of them doing export. So I've also done international joint venture work, mostly energy projects, so I have a wide array of business experience, but most of my clients have been small businesses when I was in the private practice of law. Now I'm in the public practice of law as your Attorney General. So I have a lot of time and effort and experience in working with small businesses to help them grow. I mentioned our tax program where we want to bring down the business and personal income taxes. Those personal income taxes are where small businesses pay taxes. That's why it's so important to include those in what we're proposing. Otherwise, you leave small businesses out of the equation. And while a lot of people oftentimes do leave small businesses out of the equation because they don't have as much political pull, whether it's in Washington or whether it's in Richmond, that's something that is near and dear to my heart and something I pay very close attention to and will continue to as governor. Now, some of the things I've done as Attorney General are really some of them outside the economic realm. A lot of public safety work. I've fought healthcare fraud. We have fought human trafficking, been very successful in that regard. Fighting internet predators, child predators on the internet that use the internet to prey on our kids. We're convicting more of those folks every month than ever before. We've had a lot of success in a lot of those areas. But what the other work I've been doing that affects the economy is pushing back on the federal government when they overreach with things like the federal health care bill, the EPA. One of my lawsuits, the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, now I'm a Republican and they're Democrats, and we joined together to fight the EPA last year because they had put a rule in place that would effectively stop an awful lot of building and development in Fairfax County. It would have cost Fairfax County taxpayers about $200 million to comply. So if you have a family of 4 on average, that would cost you $800 if we hadn't won that lawsuit. Just for the one EPA rule, which is just ridiculous, but that's why it was so important to win. It was also another $70 million for the Commonwealth of Virginia as a whole. And it's important to realize that in those battles with Washington, in that one, my client, I'm the Attorney General, and my client there is VDOT, the Virginia Department of Transportation. They don't work for the Attorney General. They work for the governor. And if the governor wasn't willing to sue this administration, that case would not have gone forward, and you all in Fairfax, those of you that live in Fairfax, would have absorbed that $200 million hit and those of us in the state as a whole would have absorbed the other $70 million. If we have a Governor McAuliffe, the guy I'm running against, he is not going to sue Washington. He's just not going to do that. He is of Washington. That's what he's done for his whole life, is raise money for those in Washington. And that is a big difference. I've worked in state government for over a decade. I know what I'm doing. I won't need on-the-job training. I'm the only one who won't need on-the-job training if I win this race. Also, before that, I have extensive work in the community, doing a number of things: fighting homelessness, juvenile delinquency, sexual assault back at UVA, and a number of other things, helping people suffering from mental illness. Those are areas that I've worked in. My opponent hasn't done anything in the community in Virginia. That is a big difference. It's another big difference. And then I've talked you through some of my business policies that I'm focusing on. There's a lot of detail that go with these, and I'm happy to answer questions. I am a bit of a geek. I'm still an engineer, so I'll get down into lots of little details on policy with people who want to. I think it's important to have a governor who's able to do that. And again, I'm the only one who is, but I don't want to bore you with painful details unless it's a particular subject that you're interested in. As governor, I would sit atop, obviously, the state government, and would expect to try and reduce our regulatory burdens here in Virginia as much as possible, to stay out of the way of starting small businesses and growing them. And as well as I mentioned, the tax burdens that we're going to attack to try and make Virginia more competitive. And there are some folks, my opponent often attacks me for trying to cut taxes, but you know, just 2 months ago, North Carolina did this. And North Carolina is setting their tax levels so their business taxes will get below Virginia's pretty quickly if we don't do anything. And even if we put the plan in place that I've proposed, they'll still eventually get down below us and be more competitive. My colleague in Maryland, the Democrat Attorney General over there, his name is Doug Gansler. Doug is running for governor in Maryland in 2014. Virginia is rare having these odd year elections. There's only 4 states that do this. We're one of them. But interestingly, Doug Gansler, running for governor in Maryland, has said, look, we have to cut our corporate tax in Maryland because Virginia is eating us alive. They're beating us badly in the business competition. And for any of you that do business over in Maryland, it's pretty obvious pretty quickly how much harder it is to do business over there than it is in Virginia. I can tell you, when I went to high school, I went to Gonzaga High School in DC, and most of the guys in that high school were from Maryland. Only 1/6 of them were from Virginia. Well, over those 30 years, Virginia's been such a much better place to do business and to raise a family and to send kids to school and so forth, that more and more people have been moving to Virginia instead of Maryland. And now if you go down to Gonzaga, there's about 45% of the kids are from Virginia, and about 40% are from Maryland. It's shifted dramatically because people are moving to Virginia because it's such a better place to do business, grow a business and raise a family. And we want to keep it that way. And I mentioned these 2 other states to our north and our south because we compete with them. We compete with them. And they take businesses from us. We take businesses from them. And the better business environment we have, the more opportunities we'll have for Virginia citizens. And that is my goal, is to expand freedom in Virginia, and in the economy that means opportunity, so that you all can have more work, grow your businesses, and hopefully all Virginians will have a better shot at the dignity of work that my grandfather enjoyed, that so many people come to this country for, and that we really want to just create out in the private sector, of course, and make available to everyone. So with that, I'm happy to take questions. I don't want to leave here without asking each one of you for your vote on November 5th. It is 51 days away, but who's counting? And 7 weeks from Tuesday. And I would appreciate your vote. I won 3 state Senate races here in Fairfax. One of them I won by 101 votes out of about 40,000 casts. It was a squeaker. And it was a recount. It was so close they went back and counted everything again. It was actually only a 92 vote margin on election night. They found 9 votes that went my way. And ironically enough, the lady who found those votes was the woman who was chairing the Fairfax County Democratic Committee at the time. And so when you do a recount in Virginia, it's a lawsuit. So when my opponent wanted to do a recount, my wife was served with papers at our house. She really appreciated that. And so the lawsuit began. And so 7 weeks later, we're all in a courtroom counting up the votes for the last time. And so, you know, I greet a lot of people. I look Italian, but I act Irish. I talk to everybody. So I'm out there talking to people, meeting them, and I finally came across this lady. And Penny, I forget her last name, but it was Penny something. And I said, oh, hi, I'm Ken Cuccinelli, it's nice to meet you. And thanks for those 9 more votes! And she was mortified. She buried her face in her hands. Because they didn't want to share those votes. They didn't want to tell us about them, but they had to because it was a court case. They had to be honest and put them forward. So the last thing on earth she wanted to do was find me more votes, but she did. So, you know, that's the way it goes. And we ended up winning by 101 votes, which was about 2 votes per precinct difference. A little more than that. It's just amazingly close race. And in 2005, the man who's now governor, Governor McDonnell, won the Attorney General's race by 360 votes out of 2 million cast, which is the closest race we have ever had in the history of Virginia. And so that's 2 stories to tell you that every vote really counts. And I really would appreciate it if each one of you would go to the polls and vote for me on November 5th and bring friends and family, please. It makes a difference. It makes a real difference. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions, and thank you all again. Treater, thank you for putting this together, and to the restaurateurs I see we're covering you for the afternoon. We appreciate you all being here as well, so thank you.
Only to the leadership and the community for giving Ken and myself the honor of being the honoring Nepalese. So I'm very proud and thank you. And I've been to Kathmandu, it's a great place. So thank you all. I'll come to you, but as I was saying, please vote and you'll be counted. And Ken just shared the importance of vote. And that's so important. If you heard the thing, especially for, I'm an Indian American, and you're all Nepalese Americans. It's so important for us to succeed in this election because for you to grow your business, for banks to lend you money, for the red tape that exists in the county, as he said, go Maryland and DC, it's so hard to do business, it's so expensive to do business. How are you going to succeed? And then when you succeed, how are you going to teach your children to go for better education? This is what we believe in the Republican foundations and principles. And it's important to see the stark difference. This is our nation, this is our country. We have to vote and we have to be counted. Now I'll request you all to share your questions. And Emily, can I request you to get his card?
Oh.
Or you just have a question, sir?
You're right, maybe you don't understand my idea.
Can you go get that? Have you written your question?
Yeah, but it's not.
Why don't you come here? Why don't you come here? I'll give you there.
Oh boy. Oh, maybe I have to read it to you.
Well, why don't you read it? Why don't you come here?
I have a question. I've been here almost more than 16, 17 years in US. I'm in a small business also, and then IT professionally. One major question we have having issue here in Northern Virginia is the Northern Virginia part is called IT hub next to the Silicon, like becoming a Silicon Valley. But a lot of comment I have seen the politician or Virginia as a system not supporting well that the small startup, especially high-tech startup company, goes to the Silicon Valley, and Boston. So what is your plan to become this part of as a Silicon Valley?
Sure.
Thank you. That is an excellent question. It's especially for Northern Virginia. where this is such an important part of the future we envision here economically. One of the reasons the Northern Virginia Technology Council PAC endorsed me was because of the discussion that we had when I sat down and interviewed with them and talked through what I foresee going forward and how we, for instance, integrate our universities into the answer to your question. We have what we call a Governor's Opportunity Fund. It can be, it's available to the governor to entice businesses to either grow or to come to Virginia. And in Northern Virginia, the way I envision using that is partnering with our universities to fund research opportunities and the development of intellectual property opportunities in partnership with private sector participants. One of the things we do very badly at our public universities is take that intellectual property, the research, and actually get it out into the marketplace. That's what people in the private sector are good at. And so that's what I envision doing a lot more of in those kinds of partnerships with new and growing businesses. It's a way to attract them to come here and say, look, here's your research department. It's the George Mason University can join up with you to do cybersecurity work, but you'll own it. And that's key if we want to have the private sector participants then doing the commercialization work, which is really how it gets into the economy. And the universities aren't altogether comfortable with this, but they stink at doing this. They're terrible at it. And yet they bring great research opportunities and talents and abilities and experience to the table. So this is a great way to marry those two up with smaller startup companies that are trying to develop that intellectual property that can be the foundation of a great economic opportunity for a business. So that's a big way we're looking at in Northern Virginia. I agree with you that here, one of our competitors as a region is Silicon Valley. Austin is another, Boston is another, but we do well in IT, we do well in telecom, we're developing in cybersecurity pretty effectively. Bioscience is another, but cybersecurity for obvious reasons given the government presence. And those are things we want to leverage to do more of. And there is a role for government to do that, especially on the cutting edge side where the research and the intellectual property development is going on. And I would just mention for you all, among other things, I'm a patent lawyer. I've worked in that area for 10 years before I became Attorney General. And last year, what's called the America Invents Act was passed at the federal level. It is the biggest change to intellectual property law in the lifetime of anybody in this room. It has changed a lot. And where we live, where we're sitting for you, standing for me, right now, has become the center of an awful lot of what I'll just call the bureaucratic side of intellectual property because the Patent Trademark Office is here. And one of the things that happened in the American Invents Act is that this judicial district, this federal judicial district, became the place where appeals out of the Patent Trademark Office are coming from. And so now, because that's the case, you might wonder how that affects businesses. There is an opportunity to avoid certain disadvantages, litigation disadvantages, that big businesses often try to leverage against little ones in this district right here in Northern Virginia. And so we're trying to leverage how good an opportunity Northern Virginia is for small startups that are reliant on their intellectual property by taking advantage of some changes in the federal law, the American Invents Act, that have given us a positioning that is very helpful. And very few people understand this yet. It's just being developed now. I've been working on it for a couple of years with other attorneys in Northern Virginia, so we can put our businesses in a position of advantage, including over Silicon Valley. They do not have some of these advantages that we can tie together right here because we've got the patent office here. So, yeah, thank you.
I guess you have another question?
Yeah.
Please.
Can I come over there?
Yeah, please, by all means. I can do that.
Good afternoon to all. First of all, thank you, Mr. Attorney General, for coming to our community. I appreciate it. And also, I would like to thank to my friend Sridhar, who gave us an opportunity to introduce with you. With this talk, I have two questions. May I? The first question is, please explain your gun control policy, including background check. Number two question is, how you will create new jobs, especially in the Northern Virginia, and accommodate the minority people, like from our community. What is your plan? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Thank you. First of all, on gun control, of course, we have the Second Amendment to our Constitution, which protects the right to keep and bear arms, and I'm a strong supporter of that, and have been for my whole time in the state Senate, even from Fairfax, and I still am as Attorney General, and I expect to be as Governor. One of the changes I made in the state Senate to background checks was to reach many more people who are suffering from mental illness and block them from purchasing. We now in Virginia, we're a strong Second Amendment state, but we are also the #1 state in the country now for blocking purchases due to mental illness because of that change to the law that I wrote. And other states are following our lead in that regard. That is something we've done very well. Another thing we've done very well is when someone tries to buy a gun illegally, we prosecute them, which sounds simple, but the federal government doesn't do it, and a lot of other states don't do it. The Department of Justice, the federal Department of Justice, keeps data from 22 states. I don't know, I couldn't rattle off which 22 they are, but Virginia is one of them. And what I can tell you is from 2000 to 2010, so for a 10-year period, all 21 other states, plus the federal government, prosecuted less people for illegally trying to buy a gun than Virginia alone. We prosecuted more than all of them combined. All of them. And we still do that. We're very aggressive about this. If someone is going to try to break our gun laws, we go after them. And part of the reason is we have found, back into the 1990s, we found that when you prosecute gun criminals, lo and behold, violent crime goes down because they're the ones causing the problem. And so this is something I'm very strongly supportive of. It has been a very powerful tool in Virginia. And it is very important, especially for a state like Virginia that trusts its citizens with firearms more than some other states, that when people do break those laws, that we put them in jail, that we prosecute them. And we have been doing that very aggressively and very effectively. Your other question was about small businesses. If I heard you correctly, you were focusing on minority-owned small businesses. First of all, I would say that, and the data backs me up on this, this is an observation on my part that I've seen data to support. Minorities start small businesses at a much higher rate than the average American. It's a much faster process. There's much more aggressiveness and entrepreneurial spirit in the minority community, particularly in the immigrant community. And that's true whether it's people from Nepal, whether it's people from Mexico. It is very common because one of the attractions here, and you all can speak to your own family experience, is you come here to exercise the opportunities that exist here. Well, naturally, how do you do that? One major way is to start those businesses. The reason that we are focusing on the particular tax cuts that we are to spur the economy is because we started with how do you grow the most jobs the fastest? And then we worked our way backwards. Well, these particular taxes the income taxes affect job creation more than any other. And for small businesses, that means the personal income tax, because those of you that own small businesses know that's where you pay your business's taxes. It's on your personal income tax return. I did that, and I've also lived through those months where I didn't get a check and other people in my business did. I've had that experience on more occasions than any of us would ever like. More than one is more than enough. And that's why we included that. I will tell you that in the state budget, it's a lot tougher to lower the personal income tax than the business income tax, because the personal income tax brings in something like, and Mike might be able to help me here, about 60% or so of our total general fund budget, whereas the corporate tax brings in about 6%. So it is a much smaller piece of our budget for the corporate income tax, the business income tax. But it wouldn't be fair to just do it for what amounts of big businesses if we weren't also going to try to do it for small businesses. And small businesses grow faster and hire people faster. And to your point about the minority impact, it is much higher impact because of the speed of starting businesses and growing them, small ones, in the minority community, and particularly in the immigrant community, than in the average Virginian. So by nature, the policies we're putting in place will disproportionately and favorably affect our minority communities, particularly our immigrant communities in Virginia. It's just statistics.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Another question. Having said that, as a governor, how you will be encouraging to open the small business to the community like us?
Sure. Well, we've rolled out a whole series of policies. My opponent hasn't done this, and we'll roll it out, well thought out, detailed, and then we'll take questions from the press. And I've had 13 town hall meetings also all around Virginia where people could come in and ask whatever they wanted. My opponent is not answering questions on anything.
That's right, I'm asking.
And yes, and so we talked about taxes. That was our first policy rollout. The second one was energy. There's big differences between me and my opponent on energy issues, whether it's coal or offshore drilling or what have you. The third one was workforce development. And the fourth one was a small business advocate, an office where we extend what we call our business one-stop concept, which is designed to try and put in one place everything you might need to start a new business. Well, we're not finding that many businesses, especially in the minority community, even know about it, much less get the help that's intended. So what we're going to put in place is active advocates who do the outreach to say, to share with folks, this is what's available, and we're going to do it locality by locality, and that means Fairfax County, Fairfax City, Prince William, Manassas, and so forth, because what you need to start a business, just pick one, landscaping, just for the heck of it. In Manassas, may be somewhat different because of their local requirements than what you need in Fairfax. And what we want to do is have a live human being and a website so that you can get literally every single requirement that you might need in one place. So by way of example, you talk through this with our small business advocate on the phone. On the website for Fairfax, we're in Fairfax City, so we'll say Fairfax City. And they'll take you to that website and walk you through, depending on the type of business, which one you need. And it'll be a 100% checklist of everything you need to get started. One of the common problems I encountered both as a lawyer and got as a senator, the complaints I got, was, look, I did this, 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 and this is what they told me, and then I set all this up, and I got 2 more letters. You also got to do this, and you got to do that. And they wouldn't let me start business. And so then you've borrowed money, you're frozen in place, because you can't open the doors. And we're going to fix that kind of problem. We're determined to fix that kind of problem. I've seen it repeatedly, both as an attorney, helping small businesses, and usually when they come to me, it's after the fact, because they're having problems. And then also as a senator, state senator, where my constituents were very frustrated with this inconsistency all around Virginia. And so we're going to try to fix that problem, take advantage of the internet, but also put live human beings in place who can help people get through this these first steps of the process, because we want them starting faster. It's good for everybody, to have these starting faster and more smoothly with less barriers to getting in. So.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Activists, how far you know the current political situation in Nepal? Do you think you can contribute to stabilize the fragile current political situation in Nepal through Republican Party channel, and how?
Okay, that's a tough one. I will say most of the ways that, of course, we don't have foreign policy or anything for the Commonwealth of Virginia, but one thing that I've done as Attorney General in a different direction is with Afghanistan. We have had a series of, I don't want to call them classes, but there's an exchange program, particularly for women, lawyers, and government employees of all kinds all around Afghanistan through the University of Virginia, which I'm an alumni of. So they contacted me as Attorney General, and for each of these classes they would bring through, I would sit down with them and we would talk about the role of the law and the government in fulfilling their responsibilities. And of course, in another country, the structure is always different. And what they're experiencing is different. They come from a very different cultural perspective. And we talk through each of those things, often in these cases with a translator. And so those kinds of exchanges we can have. And I've helped some of our cities set up relationships internationally to have exchanges so that we can share a bit of the American experience with people in other parts of the world. It isn't that I come into office with any particular part of the world in mind. It's really more that I'm open to that. I've already been doing it as a statewide elected official representing you all as your Attorney General as it relates to other countries. Afghanistan is the one I think of right off the bat because my alma mater, UVA, University of Virginia, was involved in this. But we've also helped arrange some of these relationships with creating sister cities between Richmond and others around the world. And that's something that I would actually expect to do more of as governor than I did as Attorney General. The hook as Attorney General was that they were setting up a legal system. And obviously an Attorney General has a little more say in that, a little more role in that here in Virginia. So those kinds of relations I'm happy to expand. It also helps create more opportunities. When you open those channels between Virginia and different parts of the world, you open business opportunities, among other things, and we'd like to see more of that. One of the things that I have planned to set up is an export business council made up of folks from all over the world who are in Virginia to help us expand those opportunities, to build those bridges, and then ultimately to grow business across those bridges. So that's part of the already existing plan.
I have a question here, Ken.
All right.
This question is from Mr. Medney. What is your standing on immigration bill? Are you in favor of amnesty or not?
Yeah, again, happy to answer it, but I'm running for governor, not U.S. Senate, so I'm not going to have a vote on this. I do not want to see what is typically referred to as amnesty, but I sure as heck want to see them solve this darn mess. I mean, they've been stuck on it for so long, so many years. I'd expect to see guest worker programs and some other things come into place, and there's going to be a lot of compromise up there if they're ever going to solve this. But a flat-out amnesty is not something that I would be supportive of. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
That is maybe you need to answer. The question is, what do you think about this H1 visa and quota that is killing us for running IT businesses? For example, I work in an IT company.
You mean the HB1
Yeah,
limits?
because the quota, all the skilled worker, there are worker and there is a job, but there's mismatch.
Yeah.
The government is in between. How you would like to solve?
So your concern is the cap on the number? Yeah. And here's one where Senator Warner and I agree. I mean, he's trying to expand that number. I think up to 135,000 annually, if I remember my numbers correctly. That's something I'm very supportive of. I think that, I know as challenging as our economy is, you know, people think in terms of unemployment, but there's also sort of a flip side to that on the business side. There are jobs where we're not being able to find people to fill them with the skills needed to move forward, for the business to move forward. And you don't want that. That just slows everything down. So I'm very supportive of them setting aside everything else in the immigration debate. I agree with Senator Warner's effort to try and raise that number. You wouldn't want to just make it infinite, but we certainly don't want to impair our business's ability to hire and function and to expand and grow and serve their clients and grow to more clients. So that's something I'm very supportive of.
This question is from Ms. Maya. She's been in US for the last 8 years. She thanks you for coming here. She's focusing on transportation and facilities. We expect to have a metro train facility in all the counties in Virginia. How are you going to be, or your policies are going to work on those projects? So that's the first question.
Okay. I assume you mean Northern Virginia. Metro isn't going to reach all of Virginia, but when the Silver Line is done, we'll be out to Loudoun. I live in Prince William County, where the subway does not reach, but VRE does. The Virginia Rail Express reaches, and I've ridden the VRE when I worked in Crystal City as a patent attorney. This is an area that is very expensive, meaning the subway. And we've now got this Dulles rail line that's going all the way out to Loudoun. It is, the key thing for the next governor is to get it done as, I'd say cheaply, as affordably, we want it done right, but cheaply as we possibly can, because it is so expensive. And we have so much transportation need in Northern Virginia. We need every dollar we've got available to, whether it's fill potholes, build more lane miles, or make this metro system work. One of my great concerns with the Silver Line, the extension of the Dulles Rail, is when it's all done, it's going to get handed over to the metro system. And they are not doing a good job running the system they've got. And I'm very concerned that once we reach that point, they're not going to effectively run the new part of the system. It'll be in better shape than the other parts, but you know, here we're out to the west. If we go to the south, down the blue line, they're going to have less trains once the Silver Line is running, because there's a bottleneck at the tunnel at Roslyn going under the Potomac. And so there's going to be a shift in who's riding out to the west from the south. And when that actually happens, we're really going to hear about it. And right now it's just a discussion on paper, but there's only so many trains you can put through that tunnel safely. And that's going to become a bottleneck for us, and we'll have to see how that works. I will tell you that for mass transit, my preference is the hot lanes. We're building them down I-95 as well now, because you can run buses on them. You can run bus rapid transit on them. When the Fredericksburg leg is finished, you'll be able to go from Fredericksburg to Dulles Airport at full highway speeds in rush hour, guaranteed. That's mass transit to me. That expands the opportunity for where you can get workers to businesses dramatically. And it's much more cost effective than a subway line. And in fact, just a little history for you all, going back 15 years, when the Dulles rail line was bid out back in 97, 98, the winning bid was not rail. By a 6-to-1 vote of the reviewing board of these proposals, it was bus rapid transit. And we do not have laws in Virginia that commit them to that decision, even though it was the best decision. And what happened is, between phase 1, when they had the 4-way competition, and phase 2, a loser in phase 1 bought the winner, and what came out of phase 2 was heavy rail. And yes, I'm a little bitter about that, but it happened. It's, you know, water under the bridge, and now we need to make it work as cost effectively as we can, because it's what we've got going out that corridor. As you can see when you're in Tyson's, the towering 70-foot, you know, concrete rail line out there. We need to make that work as cost effectively as we can now. But I think what we're going to find is when we do more extensions of mass transit, we're going to want to use the hot lanes model. That's what we're going to want to do out Route 66. It's what we're going to want to do in the 28 corridor, because we can get more people moving farther, faster, for less money. And that's the goal. I mean, when it comes down to it, I am indifferent. It doesn't matter to me whether we're on a subway or a bus or in a car or whatever it is, on a bicycle. It doesn't matter to me as long as what we're doing is the most cost-effective way to move people and goods around Northern Virginia and to get people home on time and everything else. I'm all about making it as cost-effective as I can. And if that's rail, great. If it's roads, great. I'm completely indifferent one to the other. I just want to make your tax dollars go as far as they possibly can. And I'm totally, totally, totally committed to that. As Attorney General, I'm a department head, Department of Law. And for 4 years in a row, we have returned significant money to the general fund from my office's budget because of how frugal we've been with that budget. I intend to bring the same attitude to the whole state budget as well. So.
Ken, before I speak the other question, the other question. I live close to the Silver Line. My taxes of my property has gone up. And guess what? What happens is that, how are they going to raise money? They're going to basically come back and dig into our pocketbook on our small businesses. That's the only way the Democrats know how to do it. And that's the reason why, and that is true, your office has been so frugal and tight, which is fiscal conservatism, is to basically save the dollars and make the dollars go as far as possible. Now, that comes with money. The lady has another question which says, why is education so expensive?
That's a darn good question. You know, education is the one part of our economy that has had negative productivity for as long as I can remember. What does that mean? That means it has cost us more money to deliver the same product year after year after year, and every other part of our economy has gone the other way. We deliver more of the same product for the same amount of money, not less. So why is that? Well, one of the reasons is we haven't incorporated things like simple internet, teaching over the internet. You know what the biggest university in Virginia is? It's Liberty University. They have 92,000 paying online students. And they'll all tell you, no, it's not as good as being in the classroom, but it's getting pretty darn close. And they've been doing it for over a decade. They're very, very good at it. Our public universities haven't been doing it, and our K through 12, our local school systems have barely scratched the surface on this. There's so many opportunities here. And I'll give you just a few examples. We want to reward our best teachers. So one way to do it, if any of you know police or deputies, they love overtime. They get to make more money, and you pay them at 1.5 times the rate. Teachers could teach another class, let's pick one, calculus. You know, in Buchanan County is all the way down in the southwest corner of the state. It borders Kentucky and West Virginia. That's how far away it is. You're almost farther west than Detroit there, literally. You can get west of Detroit and still be in Virginia. That's how big Virginia is. And Buchanan County, small county, coal mining county, you know, they don't produce the proportion of college-bound students that Fairfax does. Well, nobody does, but you know, they're not even close. But they still have kids who'd like to take calculus. But they don't have enough for a whole class. They don't have enough to warrant paying a teacher for a year. So how do you solve that problem? Well, you take a great teacher out of Fairfax and you let him teach kids from Buchanan and Dickinson and Wise and Lee counties, and you let them do it over the internet. And you let those counties pay that teacher more money, and you get those kids an opportunity they don't otherwise have. They don't otherwise have. There are lots of other examples as well, whether it's teaching Chinese or whether it's, you know, I got a complaint from farmers. They used to teach more agriculture classes in more school districts. And it's easy to forget in Northern Virginia, agriculture is still the biggest business in Virginia for 400 years running. You know, we forget that in the metro areas because we don't have it here. We have coyotes, but we don't have any agriculture. Well, this solves that problem too. You let these folks teach from county to county that way, and more kids get more opportunities. You do it more cost effectively for school districts by expanding opportunities. That's one. Another is that we're going to reform the SOLs and get away from teaching to the test, get to a much more objective type of standard, so we get some feedback on how teachers are doing and how kids are doing. And then a third is school choice for kids in failing schools. And this is very important because some of our schools just resist getting better. And kids that are trapped in those schools don't have opportunity. And my goal is they're going to get that opportunity because we're going to put parents back in control. And if the school fails for that child, then the parents get to direct some of that money to whatever school they want to send the child to, whether it's public or private, whether it's in their school district or in the neighboring county, wherever they would like to do it. And we're going to make them compete. And where this has been done in other states, schools that had resisted getting better started getting better because they started competing. Productivity started to go up. It started to finally improve. It is very expensive to teach. I will tell you, I have 3 kids in a private school, and the total cost for all 3 is under $12,000. Our public schools can't educate 1 kid for that. And, you know, no, there's no football team. You know, there's not a track. There's not a swimming pool. But they get a good, solid education. And they do it at less than 1/3 of the price, probably about 1/4 of the price, of the kids going to the school down the street. And we can do this better. We can do this better. And then my last point is, if you look at the data across the big school districts, administrators' pay has been going up. Teachers' pay, flat. Flat. We've been putting the money in the wrong place. And we're going to start to grind down on that. We're going to grind down on that and get the money into the classroom and reduce the amount of increase in cost year by year. So those are 4 different goals we've got there. So.
Do we have any further questions? Well, I guess what we request is Shidabe wants to thank the sponsors, and then I will also request you all to come take pictures with the next governor of Virginia. Well, with your vote and your support. I think it's been a very interesting and enlightening session. And again, Ken, thank you so much for your time, for taking your time to answer these questions. First thing is I'd like to thank the sponsors, which is Ms. Mandy Cole, who sponsored this event. Jerry Gates, he's running for Congress. Jerry, please. He's running on a Republican ticket, and he was supporting Shizavia for this event. Prasad Nagaraj, he's not here. Ann Lai, okay. Marwan Damas, Miss Sarita Kandal is here, I bet. Bobby, please stand up. Thank you so much. And of course, our host here, before I do that, Hardev Singh, or Bobby, he's another host, he's not here? He's not? And more importantly, Jaspal Singh Ji and the Bombay Bistro, thank you so much for having us here at your restaurant. He's a small business, and Of course, he's always supportive of anything I have tried to help to do. Please, my request to you is, have your parties, have your events, cater your food from here, because that's very key. And now I'll also request others to please take your time, take pictures with our Attorney General, of course, right now, and the next governor. Please. Advertising this event. Yeah, thank you so much, Ina, please, because as he's putting so much focus on internet. Parikarma, Govind Giri, please, thank you all. This could not be possible for your support for this event.